In my video about how I shunned my beloved mother, I mentioned that I began shunning her in 1985 after her illegal visit to my home in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, while she was living in Selkirk. I'll put the link below. My viewers might want to see that one first to understand the big picture. Now, she did come back after being disfellowshipped for 13 years, all told. And I shunned her for 7 of those years. When an elder from her town heard that she had visited me, he wrote a letter to warn me that I better comply with the disfellowship order and shun her. Whoever believes family members don't shun each other, you can read the letter from the elder for yourself. And then you can make up your own mind. I'll put the link below. So Mom gets reinstated, eventually. First of all, to get into the foundation of the problem with shunning, I wish to thank several of my viewers who are Christians. And they reminded me of a scripture which states that God forgives immediately. When folks pray, they don't need to suck up to power-tripping elders to get forgiveness, officially. Especially elders who want to lord it over disfellowshipped ones just a little bit longer. They judge that, well, are they really repentant now? My Christian friends reasoned that how dare the elders not forgive when Jesus' sacrifice was supposedly to cover every sin if folks just ask for forgiveness. So it seems to me that biblical principle helps folks to see just how evil the Watchtower cult really is, to withhold forgiveness, or even to shun to begin with. Personally, I don't think it was fair to disfellowship Mom in the first place. I, of all people, knew her circumstances better than any elder, including the one who wrote his threatening letter to me back in 1985. My mom was already long remarried to a worldly man since 1975, and there was no way she was ever going back to her first husband. That's my father. And I don't blame her. My dad was an abusive tyrant. My therapist never met him, but speculated after hearing my story that he could have been a psychopath. He killed at least 2 people in our family and committed 3 acts of arson, and that's the crimes we know of. He even prophesied my death, and I ran away. That's for another video. We didn't even know at the time of living with him what a dangerous man we had been living with all those years. Being born and raised JW, we thought it was all normal, just normal, everyday life. And also of note is that my father was in good standing in the congregation, besides, until right near the end, when he did finally get disfellowshipped. Finally. I'll do another video about him and his evil side soon. I've got a lot of work ahead of me, don't I? Just so my viewers have some frame of reference. During the early 1990s, so this is, now I'm telling you about the reinstatement process. During the early 1990s, my youngest brother Jeffrey, a faithful baptized JW, wrote me a letter in Lethbridge, Alberta. We moved again. Now we're in Lethbridge at this time, saying that Mom had resumed attending JW meetings in her hometown. She asked the elders if she could be reinstated. I was still a JW at that time, and so, of course, I was overjoyed. My good Shunning was saving Mom. Yeah, right. Whew. I waited patiently while the elders observed her for several more years before allowing her back into the blessed fold. In 1992, my mom was finally reinstated. 1992. That's like about 2 years of holding her up. We gotta wait and determine, say the elders. We gotta determine if you're legit or not, if your, forgiveness is legit. Oh, that just sickens me to think about it. So from the platform, this official announcement was made in the home congregation. And Jeffrey, my youngest brother, not his real name, by the way, called me again with the latest news, and I was ecstatic. I had the religion's blessing to visit my mom, so I made immediate plans to visit Selkirk that summer. Coincidentally, at that time, both of my children asked if they might be baptized that same year. We talked it over with the elders, and we were living in Lethbridge at the time. My son was 17, and my daughter just turned 16. Terry, my hubby at the time, didn't want to go to Selkirk. I was a bit surprised that he even encouraged me to go. This was the first time he had ever persuaded me to take the kids and do something so significant. 3 provinces away. I secretly wondered about my husband's motive, knowing his cheating nature. But then I thought if I was a good wife, I would just take him at his word and go visit my mom. After all, God had opened the way, I supposed. I had the green light, so just go. You have God's blessing. I was a bit apprehensive about taking on anything quite so considerable. Memories of my recent depression and breakdown still lingered. I had fears about my own capabilities and I was still working on my self-esteem issues. I mean, as long as I was going to be a JW, I was going to have self-esteem issues. There's no other way, because that's just the nature of the beast. Yes, beast. However, I did like driving the car. And any insecurity on my part was not because I didn't think I was up to the challenge. I knew I'd be okay after all. Would not God Himself approve of me visiting my mom on such an auspicious occasion as welcoming her back into the blessed fold? I had no more doubts. Then, the next thing that happened was the Lethbridge elders had gone through the baptismal questions with my kids, and then we had to have their further blessing to have the kids baptized in Winnipeg at the district convention. So there was my mom getting reinstated and my kids getting baptized. Oh, weren't we all blessed? Weren't we all so blessed? We planned our visit to coincide with the Winnipeg convention dates. My son and I took turns driving for 2 days to get to Selkirk from Lethbridge. When we arrived in Selkirk, where my mom lived, I greeted her with a big hug and the words, "I love you, Mom," came easily for me. She was happy to see me too. But Alex, my stepdad, wasn't quite so eager to forgive and forget that I had shunned my mom for the past 7 years, and now all is forgiven, just like that. He was laying on the living room couch when I arrived. Mum and I found our way to the kitchen for some tea and her homemade bread. I was looking forward to tasting her scrumptious homemade bread after all those years of missing out, being deprived of that luxury. Get out the butter and yum, yum. Inexplicably and uncharacteristically, Alex got up off the couch. I smiled as he entered the kitchen and greeted him, but he had this stern look and didn't say anything back to me in the way of greeting. Something wasn't right. He came right up to me, stood there over me, got right in my face, slowly reached his hand over to me and flicked my chin. Whoa, someone wasn't happy with me, was he? Mum called his name, Alex, like she was not approving of his disapproval of me. I was shocked by his action, but really, there was no reason to be shocked. I had shunned my mom, Alex's cherished wife, for that whole period of 7 years. 7 years I shunned my mother. Oh, red-faced, I choked back my shame and pretended everything was fine, even though I felt humiliated. But why? Hadn't I humiliated my mother, my beloved mother, enough for those past 7 years by shunning her? Oh, apparently not all was rosy in our family. And of course, why would I think everything would be wonderful for me after what I had done? Alex was a worldly man. How could he possibly understand how I could shun my mother after all those years from 1985 to 1992? I was shunning her, and all of a sudden, that abusive, disrespectful on my part was all to be forgiven and forgotten? Not so fast, Esther. This is the real world we're living in now. This is the real world. Alex had made his disdain for me known. Even if my mom could pretend all was well, Alex wasn't just going to let me off quite so easily. Sweet man. He was only trying to express his disapproval of my horrid behavior toward my mom, his beloved and cherished wife. It's no way to treat your mother. He had seen her reaction to me, sending back her package unopened with the word refused on it after she visited with our family in Saskatoon back in 1985. He had to live with her grief and sadness and humiliation all those years. He didn't know how to help her. He may even have tried to contact me, but Mom might have stopped him. I don't know. I'm just imagining how awful it must have been for my mom those years. And now I know my stepdad was right for his contempt of me. Who was I that I would judge my own mother so harshly? Once he was finished expressing himself and went back into the living room, I told Mom, Mom, I didn't want to shun you. After you and Jeffy visited us in Saskatoon, an elder from your congregation wrote me a letter. He warned me that I was endangering my relationship with God if I were to continue associating with you, Mom, in your disfellowshipped state. I firmly believed as long as I was being disobedient to my divine instructions, God would never bless me, and I might never win you back into the fold if I didn't comply with that horrid letter. I told her who wrote the letter. It was that wonderful so-called family friend whom we had known all our lives and whom I trusted. My mom listened contemplatively and sympathetically while I poured out my heart about my sadness about not being able to see her. After a few moments, or at least it seemed like a long time, she concluded solemnly, "Esther, you were just doing what you were told." Yes, I was an obedient little minion for Watchtower, wasn't I? I always wondered if she had more to say about it all. I never had the chance to ask her, and she never volunteered more. I guess she just wanted to forgive and forget. I was just so glad to be back in her life again. Oh, so the convention day arrived, and we arrived at the site, and we found my grandma with some other family members, cousins on my mom's side. Grandma, incidentally, barely attended meetings anymore. She had butted heads with the elders on several occasions and was possibly what us apostates today would call PMO, maybe approaching POMO. Physically out, mentally out, especially after I shunned Mom. I greeted her, happy to see my beloved grandma of the old days. But what was this? She turned her head away from me coldly as I reached to hug her in her wheelchair. I looked at my mom, mystified. Mom kind of gave me a look behind Grandma's back like, "Oh, don't let her bother you. Don't let her bother you." Again, I was being punished for shunning my mom. Her mom didn't approve of what I had done to my mom. Could I blame her? Not so much, eh? I felt so sad. I thought I was doing everything right, how God wanted me to behave. But here I was, baffled by all the mixed messages I was getting from my various relatives. Interestingly, one of my cousins told me only very recently that when my grandma found out I was shunning Mom, she was horrified. My cousin would drive my grandma out from the farm where they lived to visit my mom in Selkirk every month when she got her check, her pension check, spend an afternoon with her so she wouldn't feel so isolated, so lonely, so abandoned because of the shunning. I thanked my cousin for the love she and Grandma showed my mom those awful years I was shunning her. I really appreciate that gesture on the part of my cousin to fill in some of the blanks for those missing years. Missing my mom. I feel so sad now that I ever shunned my lovely mother. She didn't deserve that cruel treatment from me. Looking back, I was horrified by my cult persona while under the influence of that mind-numbing cult. We live by harsh, Babylonish, satanic rules instead of living from our hearts, instead of living from a place of love. It's hard to forgive myself for behaving so badly toward my mom. And here I was in Winnipeg facing the wrath of my grandmother, too. But I had to maintain my happy cult persona. Here we are in Winnipeg. My kids are being baptized. What a blessing for our family. So, with a lump in my throat, I pretended that everything was fine and I was happy. Four generations back together again. 4 generations of Jehovah's Witness kids and family. Whoa. I saw my children getting baptized, believing I was being blessed by God, while they were swearing their allegiance to the Watchtower's governing body. But honestly, in that religion, when I thought we were being blessed, there was a hook. Always a hook. Along with the so-called blessings came so much pain. I had alienated my stepdad, my cherished grandmother, and I hurt my mother deeply by my shunning her. And there was one more thing. When my newly baptized kids and I got back to Lethbridge, I discovered my husband had invited his lover into our bed while we were away. When I confronted him with my evidence, he denied it and told me I was crazy. Oh yeah, I was crazy all right. I was a JW. I was truly crazy. I was mind-controlled. And life went on like that for quite a few more years. I'm so sorry, Mom, for shunning you. You deserved better. I'm so sorry, Alex, my stepdad, for hurting your cherished wife and my beloved mother. I'm so sorry, Grandma, for hurting your precious daughter the way I did. Please forgive me. I'm awake now, and I'm sorry for losing my children to that evil cult of Watchtower, Babylonish cult. It never seemed to matter how much we tried to do everything just right. It was never good enough to please that evil Babylonian god. I'm so grateful that I left, because now I am free of that cult bondage. Even if it means I'll never see my kids again, I'm still better off, because at least now I'm free to be my authentic self, even if I'm feeling all this sadness. I need to feel it. I need to feel it, because I'm so sorry. I just need to be my authentic self. If you liked my video, be sure to comment, like, subscribe. Click the notification bell if you wish to receive notifications from me next time I post a video. Have a wonderful day.